Hello everybody, this is Sean Emerson and thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a baked loaf of bread. This is a French style bread, but maybe a little bit more Italian because I have enriched it with a bit of oil and egg. But for now, just hang on, watch, and enjoy as we make a loaf of bread. Today I'm going to be making some bread using my stand mixer. So the ingredients that I'll need are some yeast, salt, water, flour, sugar, a bit of cooking oil, and some egg. You'll start off with 1 1/4 cups of water and a tablespoon of yeast. You're also going to need 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, maybe a teaspoon and then a little bit more of sugar, as well as around 2 teaspoons of salt. So I'm going to give this a start now. The water's warm, and you put it in your mixing bowl. To get a better result raising the yeast, make sure your mixing bowl is warm. If it's cold in your house, you might want to run it under some warm water beforehand. Now, I'm going to get myself out a tablespoon of yeast. Add your tablespoon of yeast to the water, and stir it up so that it has a chance to dissolve. At this point, I also sprinkle in my teaspoon of sugar. That'll give the yeast some food so that it'll grow. I'm using a traditional yeast instead of an instant yeast because I think it gives more flavor. I don't like the instant yeasts. Not sure why. I think it's just because this is how I am used to baking. I don't know if there actually is a flavor difference or not, but if you think there is, comment below and let me know. At this point, we're going to leave this for 15 minutes so that the yeast can start to do its thing and multiply. It'll bubble and froth if your yeast is good. If it doesn't bubble and froth, it means that your yeast is probably dead. Since it's a live culture, you may need to replace it every once in a while. So I'll be back with you in 15 minutes after my yeast is ready. It's now been 15 minutes, and you can see that the yeast is fluffed up and bloomed, which means it's alive and it's ready to go. At this point, we can start adding in our additives. If this was a classic French loaf, I wouldn't be adding the egg, but I'd like it to be a bit fluffier. And you know what? It's nice to get that protein in your bread. That way it's not just plain carbs. So we'll put in our egg, a tablespoon of either butter or cooking oil, a few teaspoons of salt. It's iodized for nutrients. And then some sugar, just because I like a sweeter bread. Now that those are in there, I find I get better results if I grab myself a fork and give it a little pre-whisk to break up the egg yolk and make everything more homogeneous. Now, I'm going to measure out the flour. We need 3 1/2 cups, which I'm going to put into here. One cup of flour, 2, 3, 1/2 cup. Okay, when you're cooking with a stand mixer like this, you can choose to either put the wet ingredients in first or the dry ingredients in first. I like the results better when I put my dry ingredients in second. That's just how I do things. I always mess around with the recipe for bread, and I don't even use a written one anymore. But it's all up to you. Find the way that works best for you. I'll do another video later where I do this by hand, but I prefer using my stand mixer, because if I have something like that, why not use it? So now, I'm going to grab my dough hook attachment and get that attached. This is the dough hook. It's the attachment that you want to use when you're making bread, or any similar products. Lock that in place. Lift up the bowl, and then start your mixer. This first period takes about a minute, and you'll be mixing until everything is kind of together in one mass, and it starts pulling the flour off the sides of the bowl. So I'm going to start that up now. After about a minute has passed, and your dough is soft and sticky to touch, and all come together, make a decision on this point if you feel that you need more moisture. Mine's a little bit dry and crumbly, so at this point, it's kind of 50-50. Feeling it, I'm not sure if it actually needs a little bit more water. I'm afraid that it's going to ruin my mixture, but everything's getting a little bit tough in there, so maybe a little bit more. I probably added a bit more flour than I needed. Just a little tiny splash in there. And turn it back on until it becomes smooth. As you can see, visibly, that water improved the texture. It's a little bit stickier to the touch. I'm glad I did that. Now I'm going to let it run for an additional 2 minutes to knead the bread. If you're doing this by hand, kneading the bread can take up to 15 minutes. But thank God, I've got a mixer. Once the bread is kneaded enough, it'll become fairly elastic and smooth. You can now lower your mixer. You're done with it. If you clean your bowl and your hook right away, it's probably a good thing. Once the flour sets, it's going to be tougher to get off. Okay. Take your ball. Yeah, that's definitely kneaded enough. It's nice and tough. And then move it to a greased bowl. Turn it around so that it's all covered in your oil. You can use butter, olive oil. I use canola. It's what I have. It's what's cheap, readily available where I am. The key for making bread on a regular basis like I do is to keep it with things that are easy for you to pick up, nutritious, which is why I add some butter and things to it, and to a flavor you enjoy. There's no point baking bread if you're not going to use it in your sandwiches and eat it. Okay, now that we have our ball in here, in the bowl, greased, and it's been coated in the oil, we cover it with a cloth. I have one that I actually use for basically all of my bread. It's an old pillowcase. But I use it specifically for this. And I keep my loaves of bread inside it as well. Okay, so now that's covered, we need to put this in a dry, dark, warm spot for an hour so that it can raise. So I'll be back with you after that hour so that we can shape our bread and then proof it. So now I'm going to leave this just in the counter for about an hour. Now that it's been an hour, our bread has raised, so it's time for us to take it out of here, knead it a little bit more, and then shape it. It's very soft and fluffy at this point, and the oil has kept the top of it from getting dry. Okay, so what shape you want your bread to be is completely up to you, but I want to make a French style loaf today, so I'm going to roll it. You want to get it mostly uniform. Doesn't need to be exact. Just whatever's acceptable to you if this is your bread. I've done this a lot because I do it every week, so it takes not that much time at all. If you want to make a filled bread, lie your stuffing on here. Now that the bread's shaped, I'm going to want to roll it. Put your hand at the bottom and just push up, and it should shape itself. Tuck the ends in. Center it on your pad. If you don't have a silpat, you're going to want to flour this area here, and then when you do this third raising, you'd probably want to put it on some cornmeal if you want to make a classic French loaf, or second raising rather. This is not the third. Okay, so we've got it shaped. Get an errant cat hair out of there because I love my cat, but I do not love her hair. And then we cover it up again. Now you're going to wait up to another hour until this is doubled in bulk. I don't like having to measure it all the time, so I just set a timer for an hour, and then I'll be back with you. So for now, I'm just going to let this be, and I'll see you later. The bread's been rising for an hour, so now it's ready for us to prep it for the oven. Take a look. It's significantly bigger than it was before. And then now you cut any designs that you want on the top. Depending on the way you're doing your slicing, kind of changes how I want to do it. We're making a lot of sandwiches recently, so I'm just going to score it like this. Kind of gives us a good indication of where to cut our sandwiches. Like one score roughly every 2 slices. Okay. My oven is preheated to 450 degrees, so I'm going to be putting this in now. It's going to be in there for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to brush it with an egg wash. You'll see that, and then put it in for another 5 minutes. So this now goes into the oven. And I will see you in an hour, or 25 minutes. Okay, now our timer has gone off. I've got a pot of chili on so that we have something to eat with our bread. And it's time for us to brush it and then leave it in for another 5 minutes. Okay, we've gotten 1 egg white and mixed in 1 tablespoon of water. And mixed that up because we're going to brush it onto our bread. The oven. Our crust is already pretty brown and doing quite well, but this will just add another layer of flavor and crispness to it. Just make sure you get the whole thing. Try not to get the wall like I just did. I'm going to have to clean under there later. Okay. Now that you have this all brushed on there, you can make an omelet with the rest. But for now, back in she goes. But for only 5 minutes this time. So for now, we wait as it finishes. Okay, 5 minutes is up. And our bread is ready to take out of the oven. It's darkened up a lot now. We can transfer it to our cooler. And there you have it. We've baked a fresh loaf of bread. It should sound hollow when you tap it. That's going to be a clue that it's finished. For now, we're going to leave it to cool on the rack. But there you go. That's how to bake a fresh loaf of bread. Thank you for sticking along with me while we do this. I hope you enjoyed the video. Check out my playlists, my other videos. Like, share with your friends, and subscribe. Now we're going to have some delicious bread once this is cool with our chili. Anyway, for now, I hope you have a great night. Bye.